Clean bass. Meatbox. Compressor. EQ. The TC Electronic Zeus Drive, aka a cool Klone. Distortion via the Abominable Electronics Throne Torture, a HM2 clone, into a graphic equalizer, all on this little loop switch. Ultra Chorus. Distortion into the chorus. Right, so this is a video about, a basic bass pedal board. Just doing the stuff that you need in basically any band. It's just kind of a good starting point. There's tons of other fun pedals to do with the electric bass, to be sure. First off, what am I playing with? I'm using a Cort B4FL MHPZ bass. I love this. It's a fretless. I usually use it more for like country gigs or things where I need to sound natural, but it's a really versatile, fun to play bass. And disclaimer, the piezo pickup is acting up. I have a fix for it, but I've run into so many technical issues doing this video. I'm finally just steaming ahead. We're not using the piezo pickup, just the Bartolone pickup right here. From here, it's going into the pedal board, and from the pedal board, it goes into my PV bass amp that I like to use. However, it's doing a DI out of the amp to my computer, and when you do a DI out of this amp, it's literally just the dry signal, so you're not really hearing the preamp and the amp or anything else going on with the amp. So I have that turned off, and I'm going into a guitar rig amp sim right now. It's just set to finger bass, and it's pretty close to the sound that I usually get from my PV bass amp, but it does react differently to the pedals, so my settings that I'm using for right now are good for that amp sim, and not necessarily what I would use for the bass amp. And let me tell you, for reasons I don't entirely understand, bass is way more finicky about when it's plugged into a real bass amp versus a DI versus are you in a small room or a big room. Certain pedals that sound great, when you are going straight into the bass amp, don't sound nearly that great when it's a DI. It really just depends on a number of things. So these pedals, they work great for doing both, the DI or a recording or what have you, but you really got to mess with the settings a lot to get a sound you're happy with. And doubly so with the piezo pickup. It's fun. So this is, while I can use these pedals to make basically any sound I want with any bass, it takes a lot more canoodling than it did with the acoustic guitar pedal board setup video I did, where that one needs fairly little changes. So, first up, behind the little picture-in-picture thing I'm doing is this tuner pedal. It's a Korg tuner pedal. I got nothing to say about it. I just like having my tuner pedals at the end of my chains in case something goes horribly wrong and I need to mute my send. After that, the first pedal we're going to be looking at is the DOD Meatbox. Now, the DOD Meatbox is basically an octaver pedal plus a subharmonic generator plus a low-end booster. So it does a lot of your stuff that you need it from the get-go. I like having it at the beginnings of my chain, just generally because it's technically kind of a pitch pedal. Since it's technically kind of a synthesizer pedal, I find that it's better to have it at the beginning so you can control it like the rest of your bass. And what I also really like about it is it adds a lot of nice bassy frequencies to it, to your bass playing, no matter what you're doing. So if I were to do just stuff on my top two strings with the Meatbox, you can tell even though it's those higher strings, you're still getting a lot of that beefiness And when it's just this on its own, it tends to kind of be a little overpowering, but once you add in the compressor and the EQ, it just makes sense. So we're going to roll with it, right? Again, on the lower strings, that's it. The Meatbox is the first of my always on pedals, so we're going to the next of my always on pedals, which is going to be this Donner compressor. This is the Donner Ultimate compressor. I'm pretty sure it is a clone of the Boss CS2, but it doesn't have that same tone drop that the CS2 has, so I could be wrong. I like this a lot more than my Boss CS2, honestly. And with the tone up, sometimes I give it a little bit of a boost. With this amp sim, I haven't really felt that it's necessary, so I'm taking it back down. It also will help bring out the highs back in, and it helps wrangle in the Meatbox. Going back to those high string things I was doing. Without the compressor. Compressor back in. Maybe I will put a little tone back on there. That high string riff. Without the compressor. With it back in. Going back down to that lower octave of it. Back out. So you can tell that it's already doing a good amount of like cleaning up with the DOD Meatbox. And now the last part of it, the last part of my always on pedals is going to be this EQ pedal. I forgot what brand it is. Doing that higher string thing again. Taking it back out. I'm seeing I got 63 cut. I think it was a bit boomy earlier. I'm going to put it back in, maybe just a hair out. The reason I've been taking out that 63 hertz is because that's where that Meatbox is really hitting. And when it's going through the DI into the amp sim, it's a little much. I tend not to do that when it's going into the bass amp into the room. Again, different electronics just treats the signal differently. Here's that high string riff. Back out. Doing that little riffy do. Back down an octave. Without the EQ. With the EQ back in. So the Meatbox, the Ultimate Compressor, and that equalizer are kind of my always-on bass pedals, kind of my clean tone when I'm playing. I might ease up on the Meatbox a bit. I might change some of the compression settings, but generally I treat them like they're always on. But you may be asking, Why do I have them arranged like this? On the acoustic pedal board video, I had my always on pedals on the top row, and here I have them spread out. And on top of that, on the acoustic pedal board guitar video, it was pitch bend into an EQ into my compressor versus this pitchy thing then jumps over this loop switcher for the distortion, which we'll get back to in a bit, into the compressor, where I then have my drive chorus and then the EQ. And a lot of it is that I wish I had a good way of explaining this. This is just how I tend to treat bass versus guitar, low instruments versus high instruments. It's not just on pedal boards. It's also when I'm like mixing in Pro Tools or being a live sound guy. A lot of like how I handle the bass is first I'm trying to get it under control, then carve it up. You'll notice that when I was using the EQ pedal, that 500 cut really helps make it sound more like an upright bass, and that's part of the sound here, totally, 100%. Thing is, I find getting that tone way easier when it's compressed all to hell than carving it out, versus here going into this guy, it can mess with the compressor settings in ways I don't like and makes me chase my tail a bit, versus get it under control here, then carve it up. Not how I would do it with guitar, but it's how I do it for bass. Ultimately, it's dealer's choice, you know? But also, this is like my last EQ before it goes to the tuner. So this is like really important. Like I said, that when you're using the electric bass, it seems a lot more at the whims of the acoustics of a space. That means you really need to have something you can carve it up with as needed pretty quickly. So I like having it here at the end. Now we're going to talk about the fun pedals. The first fun pedal, and I know this isn't in the order I showed off the pedals at, is the Zeus TC Electronic Overdrive pedal. It's a Klon. But what you'll notice is that it's got this awesome fat switch here. When you have the fat on, it adds a lot more of the beefiness. And this is a common complaint about the Klone that's a little thin. I don't really agree, but having this fat switch, it makes it really good for bass. Here's that first riff with just the fat switch on. With the fat switch off. And this fat switch is again a thing that's really dependent on the space. Sometimes for DI I don't like it at all. Sometimes I do, especially for recording. Dealer's choice as always. You can get a bit more dirt in there, a bit more treble. And it can be pretty easy to get like a rock clean, so it's just a little gritty. That it could also turn into an off and on thing if you're playing like a rock show. Back off. Gonna take some of the volume off of that because it's kind of cheating when you give it that boost. Taking it back off so you can kind of hear the higher strings on there. It's been a long day. I've had so many technical issues trying to make this video. It's been several days of technical issues. I almost threw in the towel. Not because of anything to do with the video, like ground hum here, video driver's not working, something going on with my piezo pickup, and I think I have a fix for it, but I'm just not going to do it. But just everything that could have gone wrong on this video did, so sorry. I'm a bit pitchy on a fretless bass today. Just tired. Now we're going to some more of the fun pedals. We got This Abominable Electronics Throne Torture, which is basically a Heavy Metal 2 clone. It has a mid EQ knob as well as a clean blend, which is very helpful for bass, otherwise it'd be unusable. The clean lets me blend in the original signal. Thing is that when you do it with the heavy metal normally, without that, it cuts off a lot of your low end. So having that clean lets the bass lows get through, and then that way you don't lose your low end when you're using the pedal. From there, it goes into my graphic equalizer, which has, as you can tell, a heck of a curve on it. I have them both on all the time because they are really activated by this loop switcher. So when I turn this on, it brings in both of them. I really, 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 really do not like using this HM2 clone without this graphic equalizer. Let's hear a bit with the equalizer on. Versus with it out. Putting it back in. So as you can probably tell, without that graphic equalizer, it sounds a lot less focused. It really needs that mid scoop I have going on there. It needs that high mid boost I have going on in there. And again, it sounds entirely different going into this DI versus my amp. So that's not the curve I had when it was my amp. Just, yeah. Anyway, the big thing here is if you're going to put a distortion on your bass, and like in this case, it's not a bass specific distortion. I can't find one that I like that's not $400. I just don't have that kind of money right now. Then you need to have this graphic equalizer in line with the loop switcher. It sounds so much better. Another part of that I like about having the signal flow set up the way I do is like I want this compressed, then I have the Zeus, Klon going on after it, because this doesn't need as much controlling once it's got a compressed signal going in there. But I really, 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 really like the sound of this going into this guy. Though again, if I'm being honest, hearing it again through that amp sim, I'm not digging it as much at the moment. Again, into a real bass amp, behaves so differently, and I'm not sure how I could possibly capture that accurately in this room. I tried some mics and stuff, it just wasn't working. This is, trust me, the best option. Now let's talk about the Ultra Chorus. You may remember this guy from the old acoustic guitar pedal board video I just did and how I liked it on both. I think for $20 it's a really hard chorus to beat. And you'll notice that I have the tone knob turned all the way up. It just makes it sing so much better, whereas I didn't think that was as necessary on the acoustic guitar. Although when I listen back, I kind of wish I did have it a little bit higher. Thing is, when you have it down here, I don't feel like you hear it as much. Here it is with the high strings. Doing some lower stuff. Now putting the tone knob on high. It just breathes better, right? I like this on bass for a lot of the same reasons I like it on acoustic guitar. It's really transparent, it's easy to dial in, dial out, and whatnot. And it behaves basically like you expect it to. There's not a lot of real surprises with it. And yeah, maybe you can find something sexier, but for 20 bucks, this is a workhorse. Also, when you got the overdrive going into it, it's pretty dang cool. And naturally, we gotta get back to that kitchen sink sound. And whereas on the acoustic pedal board, I rarely use the kitchen sink, I actually like the sound if I was playing with like a band or something. I think it's all right. I'm not even that much of a chorus guy. You can also get really dirty by just kicking the Meatbox into Meatbox Overdrive, turning it up a lot. Combine that with a bit of extra drive, kind of here, there, and everywhere. Oh god, that's noisy. I'm gonna take that one down right there. Gonna get rid of that low cut a bit. Take that Meatbox back out for funsies. Oh, we need that fat thing back in there. Kind of putting the Meatbox back where I had it originally. Yeah. The last thing I would really say about the Meatbox is just to be aware that when it's DI'd, you hear it a lot more clearly than you do when you're playing live. So it might have been a bit overbearing, this video. It's always a little hard for me to tell while I'm recording. But I think it's a good sound, and I would say you could probably get away with these settings a lot easier live because a lot more of your upper harmonics are going to come out just from your amp distorting a bit and so on. So, you know, play with the settings, have a good time with it. I would be remiss if I didn't say like, share, subscribe. And when my EP, Songs for the Homeland, which sounds nothing like anything you just heard, it's just, you know, me and an acoustic guitar kind of doing an open mic set in the form of an EP, or an EP in the form of an open mic set. 2 covers, 3 originals. 2 of the songs feature my friends, one on trombone, another one on the piano. It's going to be pretty cool. It was all recorded here. There's going to be videos here, so when it's here, just watch it like 10, 12 times. Send it to your friends. And yeah, in the meantime, you know, I hope you enjoyed the video. Getting back to doing the YouTube stuff. It was a good break, necessary break. Let me tell you something, guys. Depression sucks. Anyway, take it easy. Hope you enjoyed. Stick around. More videos are coming. Bye.